Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be doing a video covering the hot start by the Vancouver Canucks and talk about whether or not it's fool's gold to believe in it or if it's the real deal. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Canucks are a club that hasn't been able to make the playoffs in 3 years. Last season they're coming off of a record of 38-37-7, 83 points in 82 games played. Looking at that, that is not a terrible year by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, if you're stuck in the middle and you're not going up, it really does feel like a cause for concern. And for a team that was the kids on the block not too long ago, to not be making the playoffs multiple years in a row, a lot of people were kind of concerned about where this team was headed going into this season. And I totally get that cause for concern, as you had this team that has a lot of younger guys that have a lot of talent that are maybe hitting their prime or starting to hit their prime. But there was still a lot to talk about. Where do you put this team in the standings? Where are they going to be at the end of the year? Are they going to be a draft lottery team? Are they going to be a playoff team? Are they going to miss out and have another 80-some point season and not really be in contention for either? I see that. And last year they ended up starting the year through 15 games. They went 4-8-3. This year though, 11-3-1. Totally been able to turn things around. But the question does remain, is this really a good start, or is this, again, the fool's gold? Well, let's talk about the good. The good being that they have the highest goals for per 60 in the entire league right now. And it's not just the fact that they ended up just blowing out the Sharks in that one game. You look through their game log, you can see multiple games where things ended up going really well for them. You look at the fact that they have 5 players right now that are averaging over a point per game, one that's nearly at a point per game, and you can see that this team has been able to have a really good start to the year. Elias Pettersson, 25 points through 15 games. Quinn Hughes, a defenseman, you probably heard his name as well as his brother's names. He has never been able to have a double-digit goal total in his career up to this point. And he has 5 goals through 15 games. His highest goal-scoring season was 8. He's done that twice. Are we looking at a Rasmus Dahlin situation where, maybe he ends up having a really hot start like Dahlin did last year and then get to where he has 10, 15, 20 goals? 20 might be a little crazy, but it remains to be seen. Brock Besser, guy that's been on the trade block for a while, he has 10 goals through this early stretch of the year. Last year it took him 44 games to hit that mark. You have Filip Hronek, a guy that is brought in for Vancouver from Detroit. They traded to get him. He is somebody they were hoping would be a top 4 defenseman for them, maybe top pairing guy, top pairing minutes, I should say. And they were saying, what can we get with him? He's been someone that's got about 30 to 40 points per season. He has 16 points through 15 games this year. And I know, a lot of people say those are a lot of secondary assists and he doesn't have any goals. I completely understand, but the point remains that this team through the first 15 games feels a lot more fun and a lot more optimistic than last year. They were blowing multiple goal leads in the game, especially in like the third period where everything would just collapse. So I really get where a lot of people are excited here. Where do they sit defensively? Well, they sit towards the top in terms of goals against per 60. Thanks in part to Thatcher Demko. He has a 1.96 goals against average and a .935 save percentage. This is great news for a team that's invested in him, a guy that's going to be 28 years old relatively soon. They've got him under contract. They were really hoping that Demko could be the guy in net in this year, even though it is still early in the campaign. We're not even a quarter of the way through the season. Thatcher is having a good year and has been absolutely pivotal to what the Canucks have been able to do and how they've been able to pick up wins. Now let's talk about the bad news a little bit. The bad news is they have been scoring at an insanely high rate. It's not just the Sharks game. There's been multiple games where they've been able to score much higher than they were expected to. Their shooting percentage is best in the entire league right now, 15%. The next best team is the Detroit Red Wings at about 12%. So the second best team in the league is 3% behind you. You're probably looking at some form of a fall off in the near future. Tough to say. And then their goal differential above expected is also a staggeringly high number. They are first in the league in that category as well. They are 8 goals higher than the second place team, that being the Vegas Golden Knights. Problem is, Vegas is a team that was expected to make the playoffs and contend for maybe even their second cup in back-to-back seasons. Vancouver, again, kind of that wild card team. Are they going to go up here in the standings or are they going to be put down here? That is a little concerning because if you're able to have those results for yourself and you're a really good team, you can hold off a little bit. But kind of remains out there. Are they really still good? And remember me talking about how Demko's been able to have such a good year? He has. In fact, he is a huge reason that this team has been able to keep things going. In fact, he has the highest high danger save percentage in the entire league right now, 935. He has only let in 6 high danger goals this year on something like 90 some chances. I don't really want to say, oh, this is a complete concern, but they are allowing high danger chances at some of the highest rates in the league. I think they rank 28th or 29th out of all 32 teams. That is not a good place to be. That means you are really relying on your goalie to keep things clean and net, and Thatcher has been able to do that, but even in a Vezina caliber season, guys aren't going to be able to realistically post a 930 plus save percentage, especially on high danger chances, especially if you're allowing them at such a high rate. So now what? What are the Canucks? Well, they are a team that is very interesting because of the fact that things have been going really well at the beginning of this stint. You look at this and you say this is money in the bank, if you will. Maybe they haven't had a perfect game all around. However, they have been able to come away with those points that nobody can take away from them. Those are points that are going to be there in the standings, and now they have to be able to continue to do what they've been doing this year, which is win games. Are they going to slide a little bit? Probably. If you're scoring at such a high rate, it's eventually going to fall off, even for the best offensive teams in the league. And for them, they are a team that you worry a little bit about some guys getting hurt, or if some guys are going to be able to carry the offense the way they have been. At the same time, too, you look at a guy like Demko. I don't care how good of a goalie you are, it's going to be very difficult over the long course of this season to be able to do so well when your team is going to be asking so much of you. And you have to factor in, too, some of these lines that they have, their forwards especially, have had some lines that haven't been performing the way you would have hoped. There are some defensive pairings that maybe aren't as good as you're hoping for. Hronik is a guy that I would really be interested to see what his advanced numbers were for like SPAR and stuff like that. I know that that isn't the whole story, but his underlying numbers don't look incredibly great. Again, kind of taking it with a grain of salt early right now because it is such a fun start for the team and I don't really want to dampen hopes. There is good news. The good news is they have the 22nd hardest remaining schedule of the year out of all 32 teams. That basically means it's a good thing. They don't have as many hard games as some other teams and they've got about 3/4 of the year to go. So if things continue to go well, then you're looking at an easy stretch. Now, there are some pivotal games that they have to win in that run. They have 4 games against Vegas, 4 games against LA, 2 teams that are right there with them in the division. Vegas is very well in the hunt for the President's Trophy. They are above the Canucks, and LA is just right behind them. They're nipping at their heels. So the Canucks, while they may have an easy schedule, and that is really up for a debate, they have some really important games that if they slip, they could slide. And that is the last thing you want to deal with. But I will say for this Canucks side, they have a lot of potential. They have some guys that have immense talent, and Rick Talka is probably well aware of the fact of the issues that are facing this team right now as they try to get back to the playoffs for the first time in 3 years since 2020. So we will see. But I guess if they can continue to score a lot of goals and Demko can be the rock, things won't be all that bad. Anyway, though, what are your thoughts on this Vancouver Canucks side? Do you think that this is really the team that they are, or do you think that this is kind of an early spell that will dip as we go along in the season? Personally, I think that this first 15 games is not a true reflection of what this team is. However, at the same time, building an early lead like this could very well see them get in the playoffs, and maybe, just maybe, they can tinker around with the roster. I know money is obviously an issue, and kind of hope to get something going for the postseason. But anyway, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and you go love all. Alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.